Hey yo, Mark here for Mark's Max Muscle. And today I'm going to be doing a profile on a bodybuilder by the name of Paul Grant. Grant is definitely a forgotten legend in the sport of bodybuilding. So without further ado, let's take a look at Paul Grant. The first thing I notice when I see Paul Grant's physique is his extremely well-developed abdominal region. This guy is rarely mentioned when discussing the greatest abs of all time, but I'm here to tell you, he matches ab development with the best of them. Grant is a Welsh bodybuilder, being born in 1943. At a height of 5'11" and a weight of 220 pounds, Paul was a pretty good all-around bodybuilder. Looks like he had some pretty decent back development as well. For the 1970s, Grant's legs were actually pretty underrated. Of course, in my opinion, this guy's whole physique was underrated. Grant had a pretty successful year in 1971. He placed first in his weight class in both the Mr. Britain and the Mr. World contests. Of course, he lost in the overall in both shows. He would also take second in his weight class at that year's Mr. Universe competition. He not only took first in his weight class at the 1971 Mr. Europe contest, but he also went on to win the overall title. The 71 Mr. Europe title was perhaps the biggest title that Grant ever won in bodybuilding. He had another huge win in 1972, taking the Mr. Britain title. He would also place first in his weight class at that year's Mr. Universe contest. At the 73 Universe, Paul would repeat his performance, with a first place finish in his weight class, but once again failed to take the overall title. In 1974, Paul made the switch from the NABBA promotion over to the IFBB, so that year he would vie for the IFBB's version of the Universe contest. He placed pretty good actually, finishing in the third position. This wasn't too bad considering there was 21 men in his class alone. Things actually looked pretty good for Paul Grant for actually taking the entire title at the 1975 Mr. Universe. Ken Waller, another man, having his sights also set on that particular title. Now, I remember watching Pumping Iron years ago, and I never understood how a guy like Ken Waller could ever score ahead of a much more conditioned physique of Paul Grant. But lo and behold, the judges announced the placings, and Grant unbelievably landed in the third place position. Roger Walker, an Australian bodybuilder, actually placed ahead of Grant. He actually looked pretty upset here, and I don't know why. He actually should be pretty happy placing ahead of Paul Grant. In my opinion, when Ken Waller took first place at the 75 Universe, there was definitely some politics involved. Ken Waller is pure evil. Grant did not compete at the 1976 Mr. Universe, but he did make his way back to the Universe stage at the 1977 event. He placed third at his weight class once again. In my opinion, Paul Grant doesn't get nearly the respect that he deserves. He had a level of conditioning that was head and shoulders above most, if not all, of his competition. I think if I ever had to choose a physique for myself to have, Paul Grant's would be the physique that I would choose. He is Paul Grant, a forgotten bodybuilding legend. Well, that about does it for that one. Let me know in the comments section below if there's any other forgotten bodybuilders like Paul Grant that you want to see a profile done on. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like and subscribe if you did. And that's it for now. This is Mark for Mark's Max Muscle.